never going to be polished. But we are actually, but I already started the YouTube. We might have to take the YouTube off. Listen, YouTube, why do I hate you so much? Because you always miss the beginning of it because you can't hear any music. And anyway, hi, everybody. The group chat is already going off. We'll get to that in a second. I am Molly Sleuth. I was a teenage punk rocker. And then I became an LAPD cop, and I was a detective, working major assault crimes and doing some stuff. Worked gangs for a year and was undercover for a year. So I did some stuff. I had a little fun. But the man of the hour, my friend Rich, I'm so excited that you're here. And we have to talk about the thumbnail because I realized that I completely insulted you by putting your face on a Marine.
Yeah, that's understandable. I didn't want to go back and make you do more work. So I was like, it's fine, whatever.
It's a part of the Full Metal Jackass. Those are Marines.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so Rich, tell us about your life, military career, blah, blah, blah.
Okay, well, I went to basic training in 1995, and then I went to military school at New Mexico Military Institute for a couple of years, got commissioned from there, had to finish my degree. So while I was doing that, I was in the National Guard as a second lieutenant, platoon leader, and then went on active duty, did 4 years active duty, got out as a captain, was not deployed to Iraq or Afghanistan. I went to Korea for a year and then was out at Fort Irwin. And then got out of the Army, and then I worked as a security guard for contract security for national security stuff. So like classified stuff and DSSI stuff. And then that's it. And so now I work for a municipality as an armed security guard, and I have a private investigator's license. So I do all their background investigations and handle their access control system.
See, people tell me that I should do the whole private investigator thing, but I feel like for girls, it's always like honeypot shit where you're just sitting at a bar, like trying to hit on somebody's husband. I'm not a big fan of that. I feel like if you're already suspicious, like you don't need to put me in front of them. I'm not that delicious. So that doesn't mean that they're not a taste.
Well, either that or you'll spend hours sitting in a car staring at a building waiting for somebody to leave.
And they're sketchy people, and they do get in trouble too, sitting in cars. I mean, just the last neighborhood I lived in Los Angeles, you don't sit in a car, even if you have a reason. So tonight I wanted to talk a little bit about just like kind of where the country's at now, and we spent the last 4 years pissing a lot of people off. Some of them American and a lot of countries, and also kissing up to maybe the wrong people and handing money out like candy, handing our money out to people who don't give a shit about us, and kind of like where we're at and like safety stuff, just to be a little bit more aware that we're not like totally out of the woods. Like, oh, yay, America's back. Because there's still a lot of really shitty people here. That mean to do us a lot of harm.
It's better since January, but I think we're still, the world's a dangerous place and always has been. And I know right now the Air Force is working on Tinian Island, North Tinian Island. It was a World War II. That's where they launched the Enola Gay for the atomic bombings of Japan. We're going out there and plowing out all the jungle and building that air base back out. We're also doing one in Guam, in Peleliu. We got one in the Philippines. It's going to be Air Force exclusive, and then Australia. So the idea is that we are going to disperse our air assets so that the Chinese, if they do launch a missile attack, our stuff's all spread out, so it's harder for them to hit it. So we're taking steps necessary to mitigate some of that. Much better than, say, 10 years ago when I worked for the RAND Corporation, and they were talking about, hey, this is what we need to do, and the Navy and Army. And we're all thinking war on terror, not China.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but then we let them fly their balloons over our country and just like map it all out.
Yeah, I don't know what that was about. I hope we've had some assets up there hoovering up data out of that. Because if you send like the Chinese sent that balloon asset, that's going to be broadcasting information. And so hopefully we were there hoovering up all of their stuff they had, what kind of transmitters they were using, that kind of stuff to get intel on that. Why they didn't knock that thing down, I don't know. But there's probably a reason somewhere somebody had. I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
It seems like such an abject failure of protecting us. And also, we just looked like such cucks. Like, oh, sure, yeah, whatever, go ahead. It didn't look very good. But then we had a cuck presidency.
Yeah, well, we've had. I know in LA when I lived there, they had more Chinese Ministry of State Security assets in the Los Angeles area than the FBI had agents there. Like they had a massive amount of intelligence gathering there, especially out by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works area. They would go and rent a whole hotel room and just try to hoover as much data. And the Russians, one of the things when I worked for one of the contractors I worked for, the facility was close to the coast in the Pacific, and they had Russian intelligence boats that sat just off the 3-mile limit and were just sucking up every cell phone signal they could so they could try to data mine for any kind of intelligence. So it's been going on for quite a while.
Yeah.
And I know that the Chinese have been trying to use the drones flying over. They caught a kid I think it was in New Jersey, a Chinese guy who was here on a student visa and was flying a drone over I think it was one of the naval bases. And they caught him with it and rolled him up and deported him. But they're going to keep doing it because they can do it.
And
so.
I mean, they've been here for a long time. This wasn't just a Biden thing either, because even as a street cop, there were places, in fact, Pacific Palisades, that just caught on fire. There were terror cells that lived in a few houses there, and we knew which ones they were. And you think that you're just going to a call because my neighbor cut my rose bushes, but you really need to know who's living everywhere, because there were some real unfriendly people that we knew were there. I mean, if me as just a stupid street cop, if I know that there's a terror cell that's in this house and the one down the street, and we weren't doing anything about it, it's a little concerning. But then also you'd pull over cars for whatever, whether I pulled you over for a stop sign, or even one time there was some foreign countries, bad guys were putting skimmers on ATM machines. And we had our helicopter way high up that was following it. And they said, unit in the vicinity of walk and don't walk, we need you to do a pretext stop on this vehicle. And we pulled it over, and they had passports and not, California driver's licenses. And when you run that plate that belongs to a terror cell, it changes the MDC, the computer in the patrol car. And you just get like a phone number that you have to call, and all they wanted to know was who's in the car. Like, just go get as much information as you can. Don't let them know that we're onto them, and let them go. Give them some reason, I stopped you because whatever. And I think they even gave us the pretext of he didn't stop at a stop sign that we didn't even see, just get that intel. So, we conduct the stop, and it's already just is this going to be a shootout? What the fuck is going on? And so you conduct a stop, sir. The reason I'm stopping you is because blah, 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 blah. Is this your vehicle? And where are you guys going today? And can I get your ID? And, oh, you don't have a driver's license? So then that was my in to get the passenger's identification, just in case he had a driver's license, they could switch. Listen, I'm not here to try to take anybody's car today. Let me just, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. You're going to be fine. I was more upset about the stop sign or whatever it was. And then, so we get as much information as you can, you let them go. And then you just like hook a right and get on the phone, and they want to know what was in the car. What did they say? Did they have accents? Where did they say they were going? Like, they want to know everything about the stop. And it's like, fuck, bro, if I would have known a little bit more about what they did, then maybe I could help out. But they don't even care. And they don't tell you anything. They won't confirm anything. They don't want to know, you can't ask them anything. What did you see in the backseat? Were there any maps? Did you see this? Did you see that? And it's just like, fuck. And I just let that guy go, So they've been here for a long time and, plotting our death every day. And in fact, on Facebook, I get a lot of really like nasty, horny men that just want to like hump inboxes. It's so weird, Rich. And so I had turned. The struggle is real. And one of them said that he was going to behead me. Called me an infidel.
That's an interesting approach.
Like, I know. It's like that particular guy. I'm glad that he's not here. But I always think that that's so fascinating anyway, because like you're like thousands of miles away from me. You can't fuck or kill me. Like, sorry, bro. But anyway, yeah, there are definitely people here that do not like us. And whether that's like homegrown people that, become entitled or radicalized or whatever you want to say, or people plotting shit in a fucking weather balloon. So the group chat is going crazy. If you're watching on YouTube, why? We got the party going on over at Rumble. So on my channel tonight at Life Sleuth Molly channel on Rumble, we have all violent combat emojis. So you can just like pick your warriors and have like a shootout. I got some really good ones going on. There's a shark shooting a grandma down a set of stairs. That one's pretty fun. Rod's posting Ric Flair. And then I have some giant tits jogging. So that's festive. So you're all missing that.
You go. What else would you need? What else would you need?
And then we're also live on my baby sister's channel, The Kate Awakening. And that's where like the cool kids go to chat. I see Chickaboom and Kara and Becky Lou. All the kids. Hi, everybody. Yes. Oh, nice. And so that's where we are. And then Wednesdays, I'm only on Life Sleuth Molly because I just don't want to deal with the censorship over at YouTube. But anyway. Oh, I got demonetized like last week, too. That was like stupid. Like, I was monetized? I was monetized? When?
Wait, I'm supposed to get paid?
Give me my nickel.
I thought I was doing this for fun.
So I totally get the rivalry. It's the same. I'm at the fire department now. You've always stood in the wrong line. But do you think the rivalry is the worst between like Army and Marines? Because none of you guys really acknowledge the Coast Guard.
No. Civil Air Patrol is more hardcore than the Coast Guard. No, I think we shouldn't pick on them. They're you don't want to pick on the handicapped kids. So I think that the Army and the Navy is probably the biggest rivalry because it's so historic. I mean, it goes back to the beginning of the country and when there were only two branches, the Army and the Navy. And the Army and Navy is always fighting each other for funding and stuff. So that's really big. Marines and Army, like to make fun. I think it's more just sort of like, when you got somebody you're friends with and you just like to harass them. Like, I think it's kind of like that with we always make fun of them for eating crayons and they make fun of us for being sloppy. And yeah, cool. But I like it. We all had respect for the Marine Corps because they were trigger pullers, especially when I was in the GWAT and it was like, okay, you guys are out there with us. It's not like you're the Navy or the Air Force that's, a continent away that's flying in. They were there with us. So it was like, yeah, but we're going to make fun of each other because it's, what you do in a dysfunctional family.
Yeah. Even with the police, because LAPD is a big department. They were trying to get to 10,000 sworn, but they didn't get there. And then they went way down. But there's 21 different divisions and 4 different just traffic divisions. And then you have specialized units all over the place. And so, it's a big city. So there would be rivalries even between divisions. Like I worked in LA, which wasn't known for being particularly like hardcore. I mean, we had our gangs, we had homicides, but they called it West Latte. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. I make the same amount whether I'm clear or handling a call. So who cares?
Yeah.
And I really
even in the Army. Even in the Army, you had the same thing where, if you were infantry, we'd make fun of the artillery guys, and artillery would make fun of infantry being stupid. And, nobody liked the Chem Corps. They were glowworms, and we'd harass them about
what's a glowworm?
There's people who are in the chemical corps because they handled nuclear, biological, and chemicals. So we called them glowworms because they were, and weird dudes attracted to that branch.
Oh.
Yeah. Weird dudes. Cool. Like some of them were pretty funny, but yeah, you had to have some serious, like really liking nuclear stuff. I was scared of it because it's like, man, they slime me. I'm out there with a pro mask and a mop suit, and that's all I got. So
yeah,
we're gonna be doing the kicking chicken real fast.
The kicking chicken.
And
yeah, even in the you have your guys that are more that want to do these like high angle rescues and some of the more daredevil stuff. You've got people that are really into hazmat and. So it's really interesting, but it's so different than police work. But, okay. So you said that you were at Fort Dixon?
Fort Irwin.
Fort Irwin. Okay. Sorry. So no MK Ultra shit going on there that you know of? Blink twice if there was anything.
Actually, something that was really interesting out at Fort Irwin. It's out north of Barstow in California. And it's out in the Mojave Desert. And one of the interesting things that I got to do was the Goldstone Deep Space Complex is there. And they have a bunch of those big satellite dish antennas, those huge ones. And they had one that they had decommissioned and they turned back over to the Army. And we would use it as a training area. So I drove up there by myself one time in my Humvee. And I climbed all over that thing for like 2 hours. But it was really cool because it was the Pioneer station. So when we launched the Pioneer satellite in the, I think, early 60s, I believe it was, that was the radar dish that was controlling it. So it was really cool because it looked like a set from the X-Files, like an abandoned NASA satellite dish, and it was out in the desert and all the windows were broke out of the building and you could just walk around and climb on it. And the satellite dish had been built in 1959 because I found a little placard on it with like when it was built. That was really cool. So yeah, the Goldstone Deep Space Complex is out there. So there's some weird stuff out there. And then it abuts the China Lake testing range. So we had a hard limit going north that you couldn't go past this mountain range. There was a couple cuts. I drove up to it and looked down into them, and they were doing naval weapons testing, flying over, dropping bombs on stuff. So That was pretty neat. But,
yeah, that's wild that some of that happens right in our backyard.
Yeah, it was all kinds of stuff. So, and then I worked for I worked in El Segundo at the satellite manufacturing facility there, and so got to see some really neat stuff there that was classified stuff. And and other stuff that wasn't, like the GPS-2 satellites that they launched. I got to see all those get built, and then how they test them. They put them on these big shakers and they shake them. A good giant vibration table, and then they have one of the biggest vacuum chambers like in the world is up there, and so it's like about a 3-story building, and they'll take a satellite and put it on this dish and just raise it up in the chamber and then just suck all the air out, and then they'll test all of the systems to make sure it'll work in a vacuum. But just how massive this chamber has to be just to have a vacuum in it so the atmosphere doesn't just crush it was amazing. So yeah,
because you always send me all the like Starlink lives.
Yeah, from SpaceX launched. They got another launch for Flight 8 for the Starship is supposed to take place tentatively the first week in March, but it may get one back. It depends. The FAA is doing an investigation on their failed 7 craft launch because I don't know if it broke up in the atmosphere or if they detonated it. The flight abort system went off, but so they got to do an investigation for that. And I think some of the debris is washing up on some of the Leeward Islands in the Caribbean, which is funny because there's people who have just all of these heat tiles that have floated because they're light, they're ceramic, so they float. Yeah. So it's all washing up on the beach of this blown up Starship.
They should put them on eBay.
Yeah, totally.
Or just get a oar and just ride to America. In fact, I was looking at some meme today, and it was about Elian Gonzalez. Was that his name? The little kid from Cuba.
Wow, that's a flashback.
I know. He's like 100 years old now. But because they were talking about how Trump has really hit the ground running, getting some really violent offenders out of the country this week, and how people are clutching their pearls in horror about like, oh, how barbaric. And it's like Bill Clinton had fucking armed, crazy when they went in to go get Elian Gonzalez. That was like, you'd think he was a mass murderer.
Yeah. I remember that real famous photo of I think it's his dad or his uncle or somebody holding him, and the FBI guy with the MP5. Yeah. Well, and they did. The Clinton had the Waco thing happen. Then that was his administration too. So
small little thing called Waco.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but how soon everybody forgets.
Yeah. Yeah.
We were a little more heavy-fisted in the past. But
it's one of the traits of America. People have a short memory, so it's good and it's bad. We don't get tied down with a bunch of, oh, you did this to my grandpappy 10, 50 years ago, so I'm going to try. Or like the Middle East, you did this 300 years ago, I'm going to try to blow you up. So
yeah, that's like Pepperidge Farms remembers on like a whole other scale.
Yeah.
But so, I mean, like, okay, so they go and they get him with a bunch of MP5s and just like putting a gun, and I don't know how old he was then, 6 or something. He was a little kid.
Yeah, something like that.
Little kid. And we all think that shit can't happen here, but we've seen the Wacos. We've seen, the J6ers and all of this stuff. So we know that the possibility is there. So when we think about protecting ourselves and stuff, it's not just from balloons dropping shit over our houses. Like sometimes it's our own government that's putting us on lists and all kinds of stuff. I just went through the airport to go visit my sister, and they had some retinal scanner or some fucking thing. And I was like, what is that? he's like, oh, it's facial recognition. Like, you have my passport and my ID in front of you. You don't need that. Are you saying that you don't want to do it? Yeah, I am saying that I don't want to do it. And he was like, okay. Like, it's still voluntary right now. I'm like, what's the point of that? You literally have 2 forms of ID on me. I'm here in person. Like, you're seeing me.
Right.
I don't need that. I did tell the guy, I was like, if there was ever a point in which, like, your information wasn't getting hacked, then maybe I would think that this was, like, safe, but...
Tell me about it, because remember years ago when the Chinese got that big data breach of the people with government clearances? Yeah, my information was balled up in that. So thanks, guys. Thanks. Mm-hmm. That was about the same time that Hillary Clinton had her server in the thing, and they were like, we're not going to prosecute.
Yeah. Nobody cares.
Dude, you know what would happen to me if I did that?
Yeah, well, I mean, truly, it's just there are rules for them and rules for us. But yeah, my dad is even like, he doesn't have any secrets. But he drives spikes through his hard drive and does this whole thing when he gets rid of his computers. He pulls a whole Hillary Clinton on it, and he's not involved in any pizza parties. So just kind of a very CYA kind of guy. In fact, I brought this tonight to show you.
Oh, cool.
And
nice.
That was his 1960.
Yeah. Cool.
It really has some good stuff in it. There was this one and there was one other one. Yeah. You know what it is, but I think a lot of people don't know. This is like everything you need to be able to like build a tent and know which plants and that are edible and like what you can eat and how you build shit and how you hide and the things and how to build a fire and how to, it's not all, it's not, there is some text. There are pages that you have to read. It's not all just armyified, but it's really, it's really a cool book. There's this one Navy bug out guide thing that I want to get to because I'm really so fascinated by that kind of stuff. To just be more self-sufficient, I think. And I get that people aren't necessarily like that. Sometimes people get really scared to think about that, oh shit, what if kind of stuff. In fact, my baby sister she was still living in California, and I gave her an escape ladder for her upstairs window if she had to get out.
Oh, way. Yeah, like a rope ladder kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's they're really cool actually. I'm definitely not sponsored by them, but Kitty, the same place that makes all the fire extinguishers, makes really easy ones, and they just latch on, and there's a little Velcro tab, and it goes and it goes up to 3 stories. I was living on a 4th floor walk up at the time, and I was like, well, if I can get 3 stories down, the last story is I'm good. Like, get me as far as you can. So I'm not jumping out of a 4-story window. But when I gave my sister one to get out, it really freaked her out. Like, all of a sudden, she just was like, what's going to happen? Like, nothing's going to happen. You don't freak out when you put on your seatbelt, do you? It's like that one thing that's like, you don't think about it. You just have it in case you need it, and you don't have to think about it. Yeah. So I guess when I was a cop, I was a total tackleberry. I just love gadgets. I love all that shit. And it's no different now that I'm a civilian, because I was even like this summer, I had to get another sleeping bag to go camping. And I was like, well, I want a bright color in case I want people to find me. But then I don't want a bright color in case I don't want people to find me. And there was this whole like, fuck, what kind of camper am I going to be? Like, am I going to be like having to hide it under leaves and like, hide out for a while? Or, do I need rescuing and it needs to be, bright orange or whatever? And so I was trying to find ones that were this reversible. There's no such thing. Yeah. But
well, the Army beat into my head because I was in the trained in the 90s and early 2000s, and they beat into my head that you do not ever use white light. So even if I go out in the woods camping and stuff, I don't turn on a flashlight unless it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah.
And I always kind of weirded me out when you'd see dudes with like the white lights on their rifles and stuff, and I'm just like, nah.
Yeah.
Drill Sergeant Carpenter.
And they can really fuck your night vision for like an hour.
Yeah.
When we did our night shooting, you would just like cover that eye because you want to be able to shoot well at night. Do you like red light or green light?
I'd like red. Green is a color the human eye can pick up the best. So I would think green would be easier for somebody observing at a distance to see, more so than red. So I'd do red, but.
Well, we had red light in our LAPD cars, so that the dome light was red, so that you're not totally broadcasting everything. But when I was a night hiker, I had two different flashlights. I had red and I had green. And there's a reason strip clubs are red. It hides texture.
So, Molly, how many strip clubs have you been in?
Like, I mean, officially? I had friends that worked like full nude. I'd go in for my $12 ginger ale and we would be like, hi. It was a Hollywood kid.
Yeah.
In fact, I worked at Cheetah's, which was a total shithole, for 2 nights as a cocktail waitress. And like my dirty Spanish got me a lot of tips. But then after the second night, I was like, yeah, this is MS-13 came in after closing and beat the shit out of this guy who was like some kind of a dominatrix guy, whatever that guy's, whatever the guy version of that is, beat the shit out of him after close. And I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going back there. Plus, it's just gross. It really is gross. Like, I don't like you. Why do I even have to pretend? Do you want to drink or not? Like, I'm not here to flirt with you. The girl on stage, she's for sale. I'm just here to get you a fucking drink. What do you want? And I had my 30th birthday party, I think, at Jumbo's Clown Room on Hollywood Boulevard. I'm sure you've never been there. The place is the size of a walk-in closet. It's tiny. And it is just such a decrepit shithole. It's so gross. Courtney Love used to dance there before she got her fake boobs and everything. Okay, if you're, how do I put this delicately? If your friend's mom sits at a club, Jumbo's Clown Room. It's not the best. So I make these bowls of like party favors for the table, and that had rubber cockroaches and little mini hand sanitizers and like eye patches and shit in it. And so my friend Jason, who was this big queen, he came to my birthday party. I mean, a lot of people came, but he didn't know stripper etiquette. He's a big gay guy. He doesn't know like strip club etiquette. So he's sitting right at the stage, and he's just, like looking around and talking to people. But the stripper spends like her dancing, right. And he was like, "Oh, sweetie, whatever," like, and not paying any attention to her because he's not interested. And so it's the end of the girls' dance, because this is going off the rails. It's the end of the girls' dance, and he doesn't tip her because he's not even paying attention to her. He's not there for her. He's there for me. Right. And so she screams out in the whole bar, "Talk's cheap, and so are you!" And she walked off the stage. We were like, "Oh my God, sweetie, what happened?"
Best birthday ever!
It was so stupid. Oh my gosh. But yeah, that was, and then like there was this girl, and she had like put a dollar bill. There's like a little brass bar that went around. There was maybe seating for like 6 people, and like and there was a pole, but you couldn't dance on the pole, or you'd break there and you'd kick everybody's
crash into the wall.
Go around. It's so small. So they would just kind of hold on to it, and they would just like put their lipstick on in the mirror, and like they weren't like really dancing. They were all drugged out of their minds. But so one girl puts this dollar bill over the like brass rail, and she goes to pick it up with her butt crack. So she like squats down on it to like pick it up. But instead of having like a sexy look on her face, this is when Hair Tsunami is about to like make a gif out of me for Pilled. So she goes to like pick it up with her butt cheeks, and she squats down and she's like doing this. So bad.
Really concentrating.
So stupid. Yeah. And I think I brought a lot of straws too. And I think I put on the invite like, don't put your lips on their glasses or whatever, because it's just a really dirty place. Sorry to all my friends who went to Jumbo's Clown Room for me. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't even know where that was going. But yeah, LA is a shitty, dangerous place. But hey, you're out. We both got out of California. Mm-hmm. So life's so much just simpler and better. Yeah, it's 20 degrees where I'm at. But I think you were saying it's in the 20s where you're at too. But
yeah, it
nature
was. Tomorrow's supposed to be 50s. So, yeah.
Not here. Yeah. I think we get like 35.
Yeah, which is why I'm not moving any further north than this.
Hi down
I
there.
froze my ass off in Korea, and I'm not doing it again.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Everybody said, "Oh my God, you're crazy! Like it's so cold there. What are you gonna do? And it's snowing." Like, well, they invented this thing. What's it called again? A coat. And how it works is you put it on before you go out. I'm surprised because like I have a heater on. I turned it off like a few minutes ago. I have a heater on under my desk that I basically like to melt my shoes all day. Like I want to be warm. But there's just, you layer, and there's something kind of like crisp and exciting about the cold. And then you just get all this like free green shit out there, like free grass and little animals and trees and stuff. That's not like LA.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
Well,
2 seasons in LA, summer and burnt the fuck up.
I do like to be warm. In fact, I'm one of those perverted people that likes to, like in the summer, just stay in my car for a little second with the car off, like before I get out, and just get a little like toasty.
Yeah.
That's some good shit. Hey, did you see that Trump was saying, he didn't specifically say direct energy weapon, but he said that it looks like something hit Los Angeles and he couldn't really say?
No, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's pretty interesting. I mean, because Kim was on last week, and her family is in North Carolina, right by Asheville, and so they're still fucking going through it. I don't know any friends in Maui, but I understand that that's still a desolate shithole as well. But I worked Pacific Palisades area for many years, and that's a scary place to be because those canyons, like you can't just hit a major road. Like you're screwed.
Well, we used to go hiking and stuff up in there all the time. And it's dry, and they don't clean it or burn it off or do anything. So it just stacks up. So yeah, I don't know about a direct energy weapon to like set that on fire, because where would you'd have to have an aircraft or a ship or something. And
I mean, that's what's so weird about being in the Midwest. We don't have any helicopters here. It's very odd.
Yeah.
I'm so used to them flying over all the time, and it's so quiet here. But I mean, there's always ghetto birds and all kinds of aircraft. I mean, that's not too far north from LAX airport.
Yeah. Speaking of which, do you know how much like LAPD are using drones? Like, are they going to get rid of the ghetto birds and have drones instead?
I don't know. One of the things is that, and I've ridden up in the helicopter, and it's they call it an airship. So if I accidentally call it that, you guys know what I'm talking about. The airships can traverse so much further. If you've got a pursuit, a drone still has to be somewhat line of sight. So if you're doing some crazy pursuit up the freeway, I don't think it really, I don't know. And then, yes, you can do stuff, but you get such a wide view. The night I went on my ride along with the airship, we found a gun on a roof, and we did a pursuit, and there was a shooting that we were able to help.
Cool. How did you find a gun on a roof? How'd you find the gun on a roof? What kind of gun was it?
A handgun. You could just see it. Yeah, I mean, you're
not tossed it up there?
So far up that you can't see. I was surprised at how much we could see.
Was that during the day?
We started during the day and we ended at night, so we got both. But it was good. I thought I was going to get really sick too, because I can't even be on the second floor of the mall and look at the food court. I'm just.
You know what? I used to be like that, and then I joined the Army, and they stuck me on a helicopter so much that I don't even feel it. And I went to jump school and got my jump wings, and it's like, meh. All right.
I have no problem flying. And when I started with the fire department, we have a 75-foot ladder truck, and climbing that ladder where every little step on that ladder shakes it. Mm-hmm. It's like, why are we doing this?
Oh, well, check this out. So in the historical firefighters back turn of the last century, so 1900, 1890s, they had a ladder, just a vertical ladder, and it had two long hooks that you would fold out and lock into place. And then the idea was you would come up to a window, stick it up a floor, hook it on the windowsill, climb up the ladder, stand there, and then stick the ladder up, and you would just inchworm your way up the side of the building.
Yeah, they still do contests to see firefighters that clearly are more competitive than I'm. They all have all kinds of firefighting games to see who can do this, that, and the other. Hey, so Becky Lou is in the comments, and I think she was talking about the direct energy weapons. She said, what about satellites, though? Possible, perhaps, for direct energy weapons?
I think that the atmosphere is, in order to have a laser powerful enough to punch through the atmosphere and burn up something on the ground, I think it's prohibitively large. We have some pretty big satellites, but just the amount of power it would take, I don't think you could run it off a solar cell. You probably needed a little nuclear reactor up there for that much power to have a laser powerful enough to punch through the atmosphere. Because the atmosphere reflects it's what it does. It keeps us safe from all of the solar radiation and stuff, but that would also make it really difficult to punch a laser through. And then I don't know why they would torch Los Angeles. There's much better places to torch than Los Angeles. If you had a weapon and were trying to hurt the United States, you'd go torch Area 51 or Edwards Air Force Base.
Nobody's there. I mean, I guess you'd have to think what would be the purpose but it's going to do way more
damage to infrastructure and stuff. It's going to damage the defense capabilities. Or if you were the Chinese and you were planning on, you'd go nuke Guam, because Guam is going to be the central hub for all of our reaction to what they do. So sort of in a way, sort of like what the Japanese tried to do in Pearl Harbor, where they tried to bomb and get all of the Navy assets in Hawaii and wipe out the Pacific Fleet. Failed because the carriers were out, but it would be the same thing, except the Chinese would target Guam. So if they were going to use a weapon like that, they would do it on Guam, not Los Angeles. So I don't know. I think
that is.
I think if you're looking for a foreign actor who had something to do with the fires, it's going to be a terrorist thing. I would probably point the finger at the Iranians, because I know they've got terror cells that they've already planted, and they've just got their ass handed to them by the Israelis, and by us, basically, by supporting the Israelis. And they look really stupid. And we helped immensely with shooting down all those rockets they volleyed at Israel. I don't know if a lot of the public knows about it, but we scrambled Air Force fighters, and they were up there shooting all of those things down. And it's actually kind of amazing. The Air Force did a medal presentation ceremony, and they were giving it to there were 2 fighter pilots. Well, it was a fighter pilot and his weapon system operator, and they were in an F-15, and I think they got the air medal. I forget which one they won. It was a pretty high up medal that they got because they were in there shooting. They actually tried to do a gun run on one of the drones, one of the flying drones, and almost pancaked into the ground because those drones are slow and they're going fast. And but then what was really cool was some of the air crews that they said that they said there was a kid who was out there. He was one of the fuelers, and he stayed on his post and continued to fuel aircraft, and the drones and incoming ordnance was blowing up above him and raining debris down on him, and he refused to go to the bunker. He stayed in there and kept fueling aircraft. So, like, we had a pretty big part to play in making sure that shit didn't get through. And between us and the Israelis with the Iron Dome stuff they had, yeah, that's how they got stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was a retaliation thing that they were doing, but that would just take a dude who's already here to go up into there with some gasoline.
Super easy. And I mean, they caught a couple of them. I was super pissed off that one guy that they caught with the torch, the canister. Let that guy go on a felony.
And that's how you get. They're screwing around, and that's how you get people lynched. When the public knows that they can, no point in turning them into the justice system, they're just going to let them go. So,
yeah, and I feel like that's the way Los Angeles is going, because I always used to say I am law enforcement and not common sense enforcement. And at some point, if you hobble law enforcement to a point where the community doesn't feel safe anymore, that's when vigilante justice starts. And we saw that with the riots in 92, I think it was. Were you in LA for the 92 riots?
No. Nope. I was not.
I drove downtown, and I just remember palm trees being on fire and just being like, what's going on?
I don't think this is hot. It's hot this year, but I don't think it's that hot.
We wanted to go to the record store, damn it. There was a place called...
You're fucking up my Aviva trip, guys. Come on.
No, Aviva didn't exist then. It was called the Rock Shop, and there was this guy, Buzz, that worked at the Rock Shop. He's got to be 400 years old now. I think about him every once in a while. I tried to look him up once. He was fucking cool. And we were 15, do you have any whatever? But yeah, when the riots happened, there was a lot of vigilante justice. I mean, they talk about the rooftop Koreans.
Rooftop Koreans, yeah.
And
speaking of which, Daewoo, the guys who make the K2, the rifle, the Korean Army rifle, they're importing them. They're starting this year to import those rifles again.
And we were just talking rifles earlier today, with a little Savage Creedmoor situation that somehow I won through I never win anything. Here's the stupid thing of it. People come into the fire department all the time, like, oh, do you want to join this gun raffle, whatever? You can pick your number. And I'm like, I couldn't pick a number if you gave me every single one to choose from. I've literally lost heads or tails 17 times in a row because my boss didn't want to flip it an 18th time. I'm not kidding. No, Rich, I am not lucky. I've had people pay me to go away from them in Las Vegas.
Nice.
Yeah. And I was the only one that left Vegas with any money because I was like, cool, I got money. They call it a cooler. I guess it's really a thing. But yeah, I'm just not lucky. I'm lucky in a way because I never stick my quarter into the machine to see if anything more is going to pop out. So I save money knowing that I'm unlucky. But at any rate, we had these cards and they were numbered. And he said, "Oh, it's 640 to whatever. These are the numbers." I'm like, "Oh, do you have 647?" And he's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay, I'll take that one because it's the code for prostitution." So I took 647, and then I won a rifle with it. My prostitute rifle.
Is it pink?
It's not. Nope. It's a nice gun. It's so beyond anything that I would need in my house. But I think like,
oh yeah,
like what we're it's crazy. But I think you need to think not just bunkering down and having all your canned goods, but do I have a go bag with a warm enough sleeping bag that could hide, and a gun that can not only travel, but that you can travel with ammo, because that shit's very heavy. And what we were talking about earlier was because I don't think that rifle has a round that's common enough that now I could start looting rounds from houses I go to.
Yeah. 6.5 is not. I mean, it's going to be for hunters and snipers and that kind of stuff. And yeah, if you live in Wyoming, you might need that. But yeah, that's a reach out and touch somebody kind of rifle. And like where I live, it's pretty green, lots of trees. Guys who I know want to go out and shoot precision rifles, but I'm sort of like, why? You're not going to get a 500-yard shot here because there's nowhere where unless you get up on top of a building, you're not going to have a shot like that. So, and I knew a dude who was I worked with him at one of my security gigs. He was a retired sniper section leader in the Army, and he deployed to Iraq. And I asked him, like, hey, what was like your average engagement lengths as a sniper? Because all the guys I knew were, in fighting in Fallujah or Mosul or something. And he's like, 100 yards. We were taking shots with iron sights. Like, we weren't even bothering with glass because it was so close.
Wow.
So, I mean, you could hit somebody with a shotgun at that range. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, shotguns are really great, especially for apartments, and for inside the home and everything, and also but you've got to have muscle. Like, you really have to know what kind of self-defense that you want to have. I would say, there's, especially like I've got girlfriends that are like, oh, should I get, a knife or some brass knuckles to walk around town? Like, no. Like, you have to get closer to the bad guy.
Yeah. Well, it depends. Like, how do you want to play it? A knife would be good if you want him to get on top of you and you wrap your legs around him and then just start sewing machine and just slicing the dude up. But
why let him get on top of you?
Yeah, that's wow. That's really and it's does this person have that mentality to do that? Like, have you seen? Do you ever watch any of the donut operator videos on YouTube?
I have.
Yeah. Have you seen? I think he has a new one out, or pretty recent one. What one of them was, there was a cop who responded to a guy who was threatening people. I think he was in a travel agency or something, and he pulled a gun on the cop. And the cop tried to tase him, and it was a Glock. He emptied the entire 16-round magazine at the dude and hit the cop like 4 or 5 times in like the arms and legs. And the cop happened to have an Army guy with him as a ride-along because he was going to get out of the Army and wanted to see if he wanted to do law enforcement. And the Army guy jumped in one of the offices because it was like an office setting. The dude emptied the magazine into the cop. So the Army guy ran out there, got in a fist fight with the dude, knocked him down, and strangled the dude to death with his bare hands.
Shit.
Yeah, and the responding cops come in, and there's the cop laying on the ground bleeding, and they're like, they walk in there, the office of the Army guy standing, like, yeah, he's dead, don't worry about it, I took care of it. Like, yeah, that's kind of the mentality. Yeah. You just got to go all the way and just grab them by the throat and just keep squeezing. So, I think some people have it, some people don't.
Before you even go shopping, you have to have that mindset of whatever you decide on is something that you would use.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think that there's people that just aren't innate fighters, and that's okay. Then you need to be better at hiding, and that's fine too.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that I don't like with, like, because I've done lots of different firearms training, and we all stand on the range and shoot, which is good, but it's like the first thing you need to do is seek cover and then return fire, which is something that we were at least when I was being trained in the Army, that's what we did. You went to cover, and then you got the scene cover or some kind of concealment, and then started returning fire on whatever it was. You didn't just stand there. But I understand with flat ranges and civilians who've never shot before, and you don't want to like have dudes running around with guns, but yeah, it's a neglected part of training of getting into cover and then moving from cover to cover. And
yeah, I mean, that's I think a little bit of the scary part of going to a range, because it's a static lane with a stupid thing that you like zoom. And you ever go up to that Oak Tree Gun Club up in like Santa Clarita area?
I did the one time with you. You and I went up there.
That place is fucking rad.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing like that here in the Midwest, because people just put tin cans on a fence. But
you know what I would love to do? What I think would be awesome, because in the Army we had our qualification range were these pop-up targets, and they were these green humanoid, and they had a face that was painted skin tone, and we called them Ivans, and they were pop up, and they'd have them at it was 50, 100, 150, 200, 250, and 300 yards. But they would pop up, and they would, depending on how far away they were, they would stay up for a different amount of times. And then they'd fall down, and if you shot them, it would record the shot. And I was like, man, I don't understand why some civilian doesn't make a civilian range that's like that. Or like the pistol range was like 10, 15, 20, and 25 yards with pop-ups, which was so much fun.
Yeah,
to shoot. And I'm like, I'm kind of surprised somebody hasn't done that.
Some pop-ups, but they were like the steel reactive targets that are on a, they're ducks going around a wheel, kind of. And so let me just go to the chat real quick. My mom's in here. She says that her go bag is a fly swatter and a lightweight sweater.
Have fun.
And Becky Lou Woo says there's a lot to learn about different shotgun ammo, different size BBs in those rounds, from 9-shot, double-aught, and slugs too. I don't know much, but I learned some the hard way. Yeah, you could get slug certified for LAPD, but our typical round was a 9-pellet round, and then you could get a Benelli and get a slug. Yeah. And
that's so cool.
I know. So he took those, like, what are they, 3-gallon or 5-gallon water jugs, the wide flat ones, whatever. And he had set them up, and he said, okay, now you go first. So somebody had a handgun with a 9mm, and they were just shooting rounds through it, and water was coming out. Okay, now you go with the shotgun, and so shot it, and a few holes are coming out with water. And he's like, all right, everybody, step in close, come into the splash zone. And I'm just like, what's going to happen?
Oh, boy.
And the thing just fucking, it was like a whale. Just hit that thing. It was crazy. And every single one of us was like, I want a Benelli. Like, I want it so bad.
Well, that's why the Marine Corps were the first to use a semi-auto. The Army was still using the Mossberg 590s, the pumps. And the Marine Corps, when they deployed, they had Benellis. And they actually got accused of war crimes because there's so many Iraqis with their heads blown smooth off that they thought that they were lining them up and executing them. They're like, no, they're just that good a shot. And usually they stick their head up, and then you just boom.
Oh my gosh.
Just get boom. So that's how like the British Special Forces actually adopted the Benelli because of the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps use it. They're like, hey, it's pretty useful.
Yeah, it's still on the wish list. If another gun raffle comes my way and there's a Benelli on it, I'm probably going to do it. But
the Benelli's good. Beretta has two. The 1301 is a really good, peer to the Benelli, and then they have a cheaper one called the A300 Patrol, and it's also a very good one. It's just more cost effective. And then Mossberg has come out with the 940 Tactical, which is another pretty decent semi-auto shotgun. So it's pretty cool.
My boss is really into guns, and he's like, just do a Mossberg. Like, I don't know, I want a Benelli. Like, maybe that's like the only time where I'm like, I want the brand name, please. Kara said, I took a pistol defense course that put you in real situations, much better than a shooting range just standing there. Yeah, Kara, I always think that like going to a regular paper target range is like going bowling. Like, it's just safe. It's your target is in one lane of field, and you don't assess and look for other threats and like all that stuff. And that stuff's really good for like muscle memory. There's a girl that I follow on Instagram that lives in the Phoenix area. She's totally badass. She does all kinds of, she's at Sure Shot or whatever the Top Shot or whatever the big contest is this week. And she's a competition pistol gal. And she posts the most like just fucked up shit that's going on politically. And then she always puts her caption, "You should be dry firing." Like, yeah, we really need dry firing. Like, if you just keep that gun in a little case and you don't take it out and you don't practice getting it out and you don't practice, racking it, clearing malfunction. And if somebody comes in through this window, I'm going to go to this room. If somebody comes in through the door, I'm going to go to this room, and like, spread your weapons out. Don't just have one arsenal. I mean, like, there are people who have, little kids in the house, whatever. You got to do what you can do, but to just think in terms of scenarios. And if you got to go, you don't want everything all the way scattered out. So maybe just guns scattered. That'll buy you a little bit of time to grab that go bag and get out of there. But I think we were talking earlier today about having a solar battery charger and just some of that shit, and having some cash or silver coins or Bitcoin or some other currency that you have when your credit card gets zapped, like they did for the truckers in Canada. Fuckers. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. And ammo. Lots and lots of ammo. And you can also trade ammo, because ammo is going to be really valuable if everything collapses. So, because not a lot of people can just make ammo. I mean, even people who reload need the caps and all the stuff, the components. So, yeah.
I was always a fan of buying reloads, but I always clean everything really well after I shoot. And if my guns don't last as long, like, I've got so much more practice out of it, because going target shooting can be really expensive, especially if you've got like a 45, something that's not cheap to get all that ammo. Let's see. Becky Lou says, rotten apples make great targets, just not on top of someone's head. Thanks, Becky Lou. I will not be putting
what a William Tell reference.
My mother is talking about her arsenal. And Mom, ladies don't discuss their arsenal. Becky Lou Wu says, I want to do the range test from Men in Black. I might be the only person that has never seen that movie. I never see anything. Oh, yeah. And so they're talking about trigger pull. There's different guns with different trigger pull. I've got a revolver that is just bullshit. By the time like my grip can really pull on that thing, it's facing another direction.
Is it a Smith & Wesson?
Yeah, Smith & Wesson. It's real heavy trigger pull. It's a little stupid, one of the air lights or whatever.
Oh, okay. Is it a DA only, or is it a DASA?
It's locked up. I don't like it. It's not fun to shoot at all.
Okay.
It's a paperweight to throw at someone's head. That's what it is. I don't buy ammo for that one anymore. It's just not fun to shoot. Like if I go, it's not worth bringing that.
Is it a 30 special?
Yeah, it's just a little pocket. It was a backup gun. LAPD wanted everybody to get that until the Ruger LCP 380 came out, and that one I like. Ladies, you want a nice little raw gun? You want a good little gun? You don't like that?
No. So I have an LCP Max, and I do like the gun, the LCP Max. But I've got the Smith & Wesson. I've got the Smith & Wesson Bodyguard 2.0. That gun's nice. I like that gun.
How tiny is it, though?
I don't know. Are you getting in trouble for showing a gun on YouTube? Because I got it in my pocket right now.
Yes, you do get in trouble. Fucking you.
No, it's the LCP. It's about the same size. The slide is maybe a quarter of an inch longer. But no, it's basically. I heard a guy, a YouTuber, call it the M&P, the M&P Mini is what he referred it to. But it's a good description of it. It's like an M&P that somebody left in the washing machine and it shrank. I love that gun.
I mean, that's really the only thing. The LCP is great in terms of like a concealed. I've gotten into places.
Oh, me too. I've snuck it past security in a couple of different places. So I won't
say where I've gotten in because I'd like to be invited back. But and then I always turn to my friend and I'm like, "You feel safe now? Like we just got fully patted down and you feel good?" But nobody's gonna know that I have it until I save somebody's life with it. So I've never shot anybody in my life. I've changed some hearts and minds, but I've never had to pull a trigger on anyone. Could I? Yes, I could.
I don't doubt you could. I think you have the personality.
I mean, I just want to be the last cockroach standing is all.
Totally. Yeah.
When we were in the academy, we had the force option simulator, this like FOSS machine where you're like talking to this screen and here's your scenario, you get a call and, and then all of a sudden, something happened. You go to talk to somebody and they're breaking into cars and they have a screwdriver and they run at you and you're like, oh shit. So you have to be able to meet that force with force and, not kill somebody because they're like, here's my ID, and like they try to trick you all the time with this force option simulator. I think it's really great. I mean, but it's also not real life. So you're talking to a screen. There isn't any of that three-dimensional where you're like, okay, I'd run behind this car because there's nothing. It's like you and this screen. And then sometimes you get these ones that are just like, you can't win. You get like these guys that come up with the bomb vests and they're like run into a crowd of people. Like, what do you do? Like shoot into the crowd? Like, you just stand there and go, let me get a backup. You're just fucked.
Yeah.
Everybody get away, one of those. But I had this one, you're off duty and you're in line at the bank or whatever. And you're like, all right, well, some shit's going to happen, right? And so this bank robber comes in on the screen and just comes up aimed at the cashier's head. And I'm in the academy. We're being taught that you have to stop, police, all this stuff. And I'm like, nope. So I just come up, take a headshot. And they were like, what are you doing? Shoot people in the fucking head. And I said, if I would have said, hey, sir, like anything could have startled him into pulling that trigger. Right. And now he shoots her and then comes to me like her life is at risk this very fucking second. And for me to say a thing could startle him. And so you got to just take out the threat. He decided when he walked in that he wanted to risk somebody's life, immediate defense of life. So they were like, all right, but don't do it again. Like, I'm going to do that same scenario for the rest of my life. If I go into the bank and somebody's got a gun up on somebody else's head, there's not any time to like speak to the person. And the same goes if somebody's breaking into my place. Did you ever come to my Koreatown shithole apartment? I don't know.
No, I don't. I went to one of your apartments, but I don't think it was in Koreatown.
Well, nobody's breaking into my Koreatown apartment for my tube TV. So, I mean, I just have to assume that anybody breaking into my place is they want my taxidermy. Yeah,
there was a funny when I was in the Guard. So this was in like '97. My platoon got crossed to a different company, and they were in a different battalion, and so they were from a different municipality. And one of the guys that was one of the lieutenants was a police officer for the Metro Police, and he told us the story about the first time he ever responded to a homicide. He went in, they were investigating, and so he was there just to help them out with whatever they were looking for stuff. And they took the guy who was the homeowner into custody. So they asked for his side of the story, and so he said he was a World War II veteran. His wife had passed away, and his children had all moved off. So he was in the house by himself. And he said he woke up in the middle of the night, heard somebody in his house. He grabbed his pump-action shotgun and waxed all three of them. And so they said he said you went in there, when you looked at where he comes from the door, you could see exactly he came in the door, saw the dude trying to pull his TV out, and just blew him right there. Pumped it, took one step, and he said the next guy must have been scared shitless because he was laying on his back with his hands out where he got it right in the chest. And he said the third guy was running for the door, and he dropped him in the back, and he crumpled right there at the front of the door. So he was back out in 2 hours. They're like, nope, self-defense, and they're in his house breaking into his stuff. So
I don't know, because I think that would be argued that at that point it's a property crime. If you're coming in my window,
this was the 90s, and this was in kind of the South. So I think this wasn't in Los Angeles. This was somewhere else, and as long as they're in your house.
There's actually this book, After You Shoot, the gun's hot, the perp's not. Now what?
I love that. That's some tagline.
Right, Alan Corwin. But it's kind of a good book, and it really is. It's all about shooting someone in your home, about how you articulate it, how you call 911, what order do you call the attorney, and then 911, and what do you say on 911? What do you say to the police? And so it really does cover you. I mean, of course, I wouldn't shoot somebody if I came into my place and somebody had my TV in their hand. Like, you're a fucking idiot, and I'm going to kick the shit out of you, but I'm not going to shoot you because there's a higher, God help me if you shoot the wrong person that was on the soccer team when they were 10. So well,
I got some really good. Go ahead. I got some really good training when I was in. I worked for RMI Security in LA, and we had a guy who was our trainer, and we did a lot of that. Like now, because we were armed security on the blue line, that went from downtown through Compton into Long Beach, and so I was the night supervisor. I was driving around there. And so anyway, we got the training of that, and a lot of it was what happens after you have to use your gun. And he's like, this is who you talk to, and this is what you say to them. And when the cops show up, you don't have to immediately say something as long as the area is secure. Just tell them you're not ready to talk yet, that you'll get to it. Just a second, I need to cool down, and then give me a call, because then I'll come and help you out. But it was neat. It was cool about this. You got to articulate certain things, and you got to. Yeah, it was pretty cool. He was a cool guy. He'd been a Long Beach cop, and in the 80s and 90s, and had a lot of cool stories. His favorite thing was to choke people out, and then somebody killed somebody. They wasn't allowed to do that anymore, and he was still kind of mad about it.
Yeah, I mean, LAPD was allowed to do that for a little bit too long, and we had to choke each other out in the academy. It was terrible.
Yeah,
well, no bueno.
Yeah, he was at least going by his stories, he was really good at it, and he was like, there's nothing that changes somebody's attitude faster than waking up from being unconscious.
Oh my god! Yeah,
like, well, probably. I could see that, especially if you had handcuffs on already.
Yeah, no. Oh, no.
Different times.
Way different, yeah. Now it's like, sir, please stop stabbing me. Okay, let's go to the chat. Let's see what we've got. My mom called me the F word queen. Listen, lady. My baby sister's first word was the F word. I didn't teach her that. And the bird cursed. I didn't teach the bird that either. You're a potty mouth lady. My mom has the vocabulary of a Victorian sailor. You never know what's going to come out of her mouth. And okay, so then they're still talking about loading. Good info. Now there was one. Oh, hi, hiking cat lady. And Big Hair Tsunami is in the chat, was gifting a subscription on my channel, Life Sleuth Molly. Thank you, Big Hair Tsunami. I saw that you posted a comment and then it was like deleted. I don't know if you deleted that or Rumble deleted that. I'm still learning the ropes. Oh, Becky Lou just got a collapsible baton today in case someone needs to get knocked out of them and it doesn't quite deserve a gun pulled on them. Those batons are pretty fun. But they also can snap because they're pretty slender and you've got moving parts and that kind of stuff. But they're really good at breaking windows.
Yeah.
And then Rose Thistle Art was, that's the one I wanted to find. She says hairspray and a lighter. And
fire.
Rose, where were you? Were you in Pacific Palisades the last few weeks? And then she said, what do you think of the Burna Ungun thing? That's above my baby.
Oh, it's a pepper ball gun.
Oh, okay. I have seen those.
Yeah. Well, I used to work at a county jail, and my team leader, was a former Marine, and he loved his pepper ball gun. He got certified for that. And we had a dude who was in a cell and he was being really passive aggressive. Like, he wouldn't outright to be defiant, but he wouldn't do what you wanted him to do. And we had to move him for some reason. I don't remember why. And so I had to go in and cuff him. And he was a kind of a big, chunky dude. And so my team leader pulled the pepper ball gun on him and was threatening with it. And so I was trying to get him in cuffs. So I am on him on his knees, and I got one wrist, and then his other wrist, he just kept twisting. Every time I tried to hook the cuff, he'd turn his wrist where it wouldn't fit. Mm-hmm. And so I was starting to get mad at him. So I'm like trying to get him. And then Beavis over there lights him up with the pepper ball gun, which is blowing up into my face. So now I can't see anything, and I've got to wrestle this dude into cuffs. I finally had to bounce him off the metal toilet before I could finally get him in the cuffs and get him out of the cell. And then I wanted to take that pepper ball gun and beat that dude with it, because it was just like, that did not help. It just made it way worse.
Yeah.
If you get in their eyes, maybe. I mean, pepper spray was great when they got me with it. That sucked. But, and I always thought it was better. I've seen tasers used twice in a situation, and I've seen them fail twice in a situation. So, really? Yeah, I've never seen it work the way it's supposed to. But the pepper spray, that jacks people up bad. So, yeah. No, I saw 2 times. The first time was in a jail situation. We had a little mini riot, and a dude, they were trying to flood a cell, so he was soaking wet. And they went to use the taser on him, he had one of those big, really loose jail shirts. Mm-hmm. And when they shot at him, he kind of leaned forward, and because it was wet, it swung. And so the first pin made contact, but the second one didn't. It was in the shirt, so there was no arcing.
Yeah.
So he just walked up on him and started trying to beat him up and now they've got wires everywhere. And the funny thing was that I had a dude in cuffs that I'm holding, and because they had flooded the cell, there was a big pool of water. So we're standing in a pool of water. He walks up with live wires, and it drips in there. So it starts frying the dude I'm holding on to through the puddle. So I had to drag this dude out of the puddle to get him. Yeah. So there was that time. And then another time working security, we had a dude, one of the other security guards, it was at a hospital, and this dude was in there and was crazy, homeless guy. And a guy was trying to tell him, hey, you got to leave. You're trespassing. Just keep walking. Everything will be fine. And the dude whips a knife out on him. So he pulls the taser and shot him with it. And again, the guy's wearing 5 coats. So just pink, and he just kept coming at him. And then we had a wrestling. It was during Christmas. So we got to throw him into a Christmas tree, and then the Christmas tree fell on us. So we're wrestling this dude with all these presents and Christmas ornaments rolling around. Yeah, that was loads of fun. All this broken glass from all these ornaments. Yeah, it was great.
Oh my
great
God.
time.
I mean, so yeah, it really regionally, I would say, especially right now, it's 20 fucking degrees in the Midwest. So a taser isn't really going to be your best bet, because I got my Nana of the North coat going on.
Yeah.
And but Los Angeles, where everybody, especially those crazy people that are just ripping their clothes off, whatever. That's good.
One of the funniest videos I saw of a taser being deployed in some training thing, they were talking about it. But I don't know if it was in California or if it was in Florida, but it was somewhere where it was beach area. And there was this woman in a bikini and I think she had a knife on her or something. And so the cops had surrounded her, but they were outside of arm's length, and they were trying to talk her down and blah, blah, blah. And she's being crazy and waving the knife around and threatening them and stuff. But neither of them, they're so this cop kind of worked his way around the back, pink, and nailed her. And because she's wearing a bikini, he got a perfect hit and just locked her up. And
yeah. I mean, I really have seen them be great. And it's been a couple of years, but I know that Taser International made an X26C for civilian model, and that one would tase for 30 seconds.
Holy cow.
Because, for cops, for us, it was 5 seconds. And that's just enough time to be able to jump on, grab an arm, start handcuffing, call it a backup.
Which, when you're getting fried with it, feels more like 5 minutes.
100 years. That was the worst. You could pepper spray me every fucking morning. That taser, get me the fuck away from that thing. That was the worst. And it fried the nerve in 2 of my toes. And
oh, really?
Yeah. So I had to tell him, and they were like, "That's less to hurt when you're running. Get out of my face." Okay, that maybe we should so those 2 toes are they have Band-Aids on them. I don't know how to explain it, but you can't feel the skin, but you feel pressure.
Yeah.
Thanks. And LAPD had this stupid thing. Hold on, now I'm getting all fired up. I need to have some bombs and a shark with a gun and some tits and a bunny shooting and some creature from the Black Lagoon kicking. I got some good emotes going on. Here's Alex Jones having a freak out. Hell yeah. This is good. And now this girl's saluting. I got some good emotes in there today just for you, Rich. But in LAPD, we have to get tased, for the, before we get certified and sworn and stuff. And everyone's like, "Are you going to be part of the 5-second club?" Yeah, 5-second club. And I'm like, this is some frat boy bullshit. So stupid. No, I'm not part of the 5-second club. I got nothing to fucking prove. In fact, when they go to tase you, we're all lined up, accepting our fate. And you're supposed to yell, "Stop, stop," whatever, give commands and everything. So me and my instructor are next. And I'm like, I'm not going to be a part of 5-second club. I don't give a shit. So she tases me. And I'm yelling, stop, 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 stop the whole time. And she made it ride for 5 seconds. And then she said, I just feel like women have more to prove on the job and that we should be. You have more to prove on the job. Fuck you. Man, that was so shocking. What a bitch. And I think that was like the first Blue Falcon that I ever met on the department, because it's like, you have something to prove, lady. What the hell?
So you didn't want to get tased, and she did it to you anyway, huh?
Well, you have to get tased, but do I experience the taser at 1 second, at 3 seconds, at 5 seconds?
Oh, it was like a dialable one. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you can tell her to stop.
When we did ours, it was. Oh, okay. When we did ours, it was 5 seconds. That's what you were getting, and it sucked because they did alligator clips, so they clipped it to your collar and your pant leg, so you got a full body arc. And holy cow, yeah, for 5 seconds. And I remember it hit me, and I'm like, oh, because
your heart. I'm surprised they crossed your heart.
Yeah, so they fried the out of us, and I remember thinking, okay, this is going to suck, and it happens, and I lock up, and I'm like, oh, holy shit. And then I'm thinking, okay, it's been 5 seconds. Okay, 5 seconds now. No, it's still going. Oh, okay, it's got to be 5 seconds now. No, it's still going. What in the hell? How long is it? And then it'll release, and I'm like, oh, my holy cow. Yeah, but...
Ours was one of the darts in our pocket and the other one in our boot.
Okay.
Like a whole Charlie horse going on that you felt for days.
Yeah.
And
no, it was.
She was like, "You're not part of 5 Second Club because you said stop," and I was like, "Fuck you! I don't want to be a part of it. Like, you're an idiot."
Yeah. Well, ours was. It was just that's what the taser did. It was just always everything was 5 seconds. So
okay, ours.
But it was amazing. Being trapped inside your own body for 5 seconds.
It's terrible. But so that Model X26C goes for 30 seconds, and that's because you tase them. They go down, hopefully, and you just set the taser down and let it just ride. You take it off, and that gives you enough time to get away from them. And then what they were doing, and I don't know that they still do this, but Taser International would give you a free replacement taser with a police report that showed that you had to use it on somebody.
Wow.
I don't know that they still do. It's a company out of, I want to say Phoenix, but definitely Arizona, Taser International. At least it was at the time.
Well, they had developed a 12-gauge shotgun taser round.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it was a round you could load into a 12-gauge and shoot somebody, and it would tase them. But it was like, I forget how much. It was like $10,000 a shot or something. Like that's why they didn't like sell them, and because it was so prohibitively expensive to use them. But they actually had a taser shotgun round, and I saw some promotional material for it. And I'm like, holy. What the? Shoot them with rock salt or something.
But so that's pain compliance, and even what was it, Rose Thistleart that was talking about the pepper ball gun? Is that still pain compliance? And when you think about people that are mentally ill, or they're all hopped up on drugs, or they're all hopped up on adrenaline because they know they're coming in to kill you or whatever it is, that pepper spray or these pepper balls or even stabbing them or any of this stuff, that's all pain compliance.
Yeah, the only thing about pepper sprays, though, if you get it in their eyes are going to close. Like, it's an involuntary reaction. But if they're motivated, they're motivated. So, and the pepper balls are so small, like, I don't know if it's going to deliver enough mass on target to get a good reaction. So I don't know about that, because it is just a pepper ball gun. And I still do have it somewhere. I have a pepper ball pistol that looks about the size of that gun, and it only holds like 8 pepper balls. which isn't a lot. Like when you start getting on the trigger and start throwing those things at somebody, you can go through 8 real fast. So, and then you got to reload it. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I'm not so much about
my favorite,
but I don't know. What was it?
The taser was my favorite because it's involuntary, because you're not waiting for it to take effect. You're not waiting for them to hurt too much if it works. But if you miss a dart, like you're saying happened in the jail, then you just come in because there were still electrodes, whatever you want to call them, on the end of the gun.
Yeah. And no, I've seen that used too. Yeah, no, it was dude. Yeah, I was called a humanitarian because with that little mini riot, there was a dude. He was a UAB guy, United Aryan Brotherhood dude, and he had grabbed. There was a window, and then they had put bars on it so you couldn't break it. Like it was the breaking, but then they added another. So he had grabbed the bars and was holding on to it. And so they're trying to pry him off the bars, but he's got his arms wrapped in. So it's like, you're not going to get his arms off unless he lets go. And so they're threatening him and trying to pull him off and stuff. And the one guy pulls out the taser and he pulls the cartridge off. And he's like, I'm going to rah. And everybody's yelling. So like, you can't understand what anybody's saying because you're in the jail. The sound's bouncing. Everybody's screaming. And so I lean into this dude because he's got his arms. He's not like, he can't hit me because he's got his arms in this thing. And I lean into him like, hey, listen, they're going to tase you. Okay. So just let go. And then they don't have to do that to you. And he looks at me, he goes, I can't. And then the dude just goes, and just stitches it across his back.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, dude, I told you. But it was after the whole thing ended, and he's like, Britt, you're a real humanitarian. I just wanted to sit you in, man.
I always felt that way with the canine. They would get the canine out. We were doing a search, and you're calling somebody out of a house, and it's like, bro, if you had any idea how much this dog wants to bite the shit out of you, you'd come out right now. Like, I'll give up. And we had officers that were accidentally bit by the canine before, and like, hell no. I've seen what those dogs can do. There's no way.
Yeah. There's dudes that go boar hunting with a knife and dogs, and they pull the boars down, and the dogs hold them down, and you go out there and slit its throat.
Yeah. So I mean, like, back to survival. I know that I could win a war. I don't know that I could like hunt or kill anything. My meat comes on styrofoam, and I don't like it that way.
Yeah. I think for survival stuff, a shotgun is really good because you can not only can you defend yourself with it, but you can also hunt birds or animals or whatever. It's a very versatile weapon. Mm-hmm. It depends on how hungry you get. I think when you get a certain level of hungry, you kind of quit caring.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Fear Factor when that show was on. I could totally do that. You tell me I could ride a bike on a tightrope. Fuck it, let's do it. Like, they can't really kill you. But putting something suspicious in my mouth. I mean, I did have Taco Bell for dinner. But I don't know what's in it.
Yeah.
And so I just, when they're crunching on those eyeballs and shit, that's just not going to happen at all.
Well, that was one of the things that I thought was something we didn't train enough on. And it was one of those things that the senior enlisted were really good at because they'd been in long enough. But how to set up hygiene for, 36, 150, 300 people, where you set the latrines in, how do you keep from contaminating your water, just the entire logistics of it was really interesting. And I forget the name of the field manual. There was a whole field manual for that, about how far away latrines have to be from water sources and then because they didn't want you to contaminate. That's more soldiers died from this. Yeah, probably could be. There was a whole other field manual that was all about just the logistics of dudes in the woods and like how you do that. And it was one of the things like senior enlisted platoon sergeants and first sergeants and stuff would organize. As an officer, my job was more the tactical security side of it. I didn't get into that a lot, but it was fascinating because there was a whole way you do it. And if you screw it up, you're going to get dudes with dysentery. Like there were more soldiers killed in the Civil War from dysentery than there were from gunshot wounds. So like it's a big deal, and you don't realize it until you get out there in it. Like you can just get a scratch and then it'll get infected and then you're fucked because, I mean, that's how Calvin Coolidge's son died. The president in the 1920s, his son went playing tennis without socks on and got a blister on his foot and it got infected and then it killed him. So, and out there in the staying clean is really important out there because you can get sick real fast.
Yeah, I think that is important. It's all the little stuff too. You watch like Naked and Afraid or any of those like kind of things, and it's never a wild animal that causes them to tap out. It's always the fucking mosquito, or they accidentally cut themselves one day because they're not paying enough attention. Do you ever watch the show Alone? I think
no, I do not.
Oh man,
yeah.
It's so good. It's
good.
It makes me like tear up. It's so fucking good. So they drop like 12 people off, 10 people off, usually like up in Canada. And they drop them off in like September. So you got a couple weeks to build your shelter and get your shit together before the snow comes, and then you're fucked. And it's everybody against everyone else. You're totally alone. You don't know how many people are still in the game, but the last one standing wins. And it's really a fascinating show. Not just
you have to do just survival stuff on your own, but you're competing against other people.
You just have to be the one that survives the longest. And they let you, like with Naked and Afraid, they let you bring a certain amount of items. So do you want a bow, or do you want, fishing net, or do you want stuff to make traps? You have to decide based off of where you're going in the season and what you're good at, how you're going to get food for yourself. And there are people who are like, I'll find a way to make a fishing net, but I need to bring the trapping stuff. And, but it's not just for the survival element, because they pick people that are all very capable of building that shelter and knowing what plants to use and all of this stuff. But really it's the sociological and psychological factors that make it just the greatest show, because you've got these people that were like Navy SEALs that could be the last man on the planet. But it's like the first night and they're like, I really miss my family and I gotta go. Like, wait, no, like you were the dude, you were gonna win. And then you just have this guy who's like, well, I don't know, I'm gonna make a snowman, like, well, I would. And like those kind of guys, they win.
It's stupid to be lonely.
But at the end of the show, so they don't tell them. And once they start getting like further in, they'll have medical checks just to make sure that you haven't lost too much muscle mass and stuff. And this one guy, he had like 38 fish that he had caught and smoked, but he wasn't eating them, because part of that starvation is that you stop eating. You don't get that hunger anymore, and you start hoarding food because you just think that food's for later, that food's not for now. And they come and they weigh that guy and they're like, you got to get pulled. You're just super underweight. This is unhealthy. Your liver's going to shut down. He's like, I have 38 fish. I'll eat them. And they're like, it's too late. You got to go. And he would have made it. He would have made it 4 years had he eaten those fish. And but you don't know how many people are left. So when the second to last guy takes off, and there's girls that do it too. I always just call everybody guys. But when the second to last guy takes off and you know that one person won and they don't know yet, and they'll just come over the walkie and just be like, yeah, I got a medical check tomorrow. Like, fuck. Man, I better drink a bunch of water, so I can have some weight on me so that, so that everything is good for the thing and for the medical checks and everything. And they'll come. They don't speak to you except to say, like, lift your arm, let me see your toe. Okay, stand here. But they don't talk to you like, how are you doing? There's no like human contact. It's very cold. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the whole psychological experiment. So they're just kind of standing there while the doctors or medics are having this conversation about him. Like, is he going to stay or go? And then like the wife comes up from the woods and like goes and hugs him from behind. And like, dude, you cannot watch an episode of that without crying at the end, because it's so exciting that all that work was for something. And the fact that like their wife or girlfriend or whoever is there to celebrate with them and take them off the island. And then he gets to like show her where he's lived for the last couple of months. And it's such a great show, because when you have the survival element of it and you're seeing them, skin squirrels and make all kinds of stuff, and what happens when your net like is gone, and what can we use from the land. They're allowed to use anything that they do find like washed ashore, and sometimes they'll find some cool stuff. And they've done ones with pairs, like siblings, father, son. And that's a little bit interesting too, because then you have that dynamic of, no, I have the better idea. Or one was like, they got dropped off separate. So one of them has to walk to the other one. That gives this person 2 days to make the shelter. Dad's kicking ass, making this great shelter while the kid's like walking to him. And the kid just like meets him, and the kid's like, I don't want to do this, Dad. And you're just like, what?
Yeah.
Man, that dad was so disappointed. But then there's like a couple, and she was the one that was making the shelter. And she's like, I just want it to be so beautiful for my husband when he gets here. I want it to be real homey with a great fireplace and creature comforts. And because he's walked a long way. And when he gets here, I just want him to be able to rest. And I just thought, fuck. And that couple made it. I don't know if they won, but they made it really far if they didn't win. And they were such a great couple and worked so well together. It's called Alone. There's a lot of seasons, I think, for free on YouTube. But I don't have anything anywhere. I don't even have a TV. So, but that show is just, I mean, I think there's like 9 seasons. They need to get more on it. I thought that they would do more when it came to the scamdemic, because like you just have a dude alone by himself, his own video, and there's no camera. I mean, there's no camera crew. I filmed stuff. You are alone, unlike Naked and Afraid. So just to catch up with the chat, my mom says that I lived on candy in Japan. That is true. Very true. But I had been to Hong Kong for the few days before I got to Japan. And their food is not so good. Everything comes with the head on it. It's really disgusting. And there was like prawn pizza, octopus pizza. There's just like some really gross stuff.
Yeah, I was in Korea.
When I got to Japan, I was just like, I'm going to have... So when I first got to Japan, we sat down. There were menus. I'm like, okay, I don't want anything too crazy. I've just been eating candy for like days in Hong Kong because everything here is vile. And again, I eat Taco Bell. But I see this picture of this pizza in Japan, and it's like 4 quadrants. And one of them looks like it's just mozzarella. The other one looks like it's some kind of like pesto. Everything's like, so there's 4 chances that this shit's going to be good. So I'm like, yes, this is what I want. Good guy. So they bring this pizza, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to start off real slow. So I just get the mozzarella piece, just a big piece of just all this cheese melted on it. Like, yeah, food, sustenance, right? So I go to eat, I bite into it. It was like biting into aluminum foil. It was a big, fat coating of baked fucking mayonnaise. There wasn't cheese anywhere on the thing. It was gross. And the pesto wasn't pesto. It was some like pickled seaweed abomination. Get me out of here.
That's the way I was in Korea. And so one of the things I would do as a platoon leader there, we had what we call katusu. So they were Koreans augmenting the U.S. Army. So they were Korean soldiers, but they were people who were Korea had a mandatory service you had to do in order to vote and be a citizen. You had to do, I think it was 2 years in the Korean Army. So a lot of guys would go to college for 2 years, stop, do their military service, and then go back to college and finish their degree. And so we would get these guys that were the college guys who could speak English, and they would be our translators for us. So what I would do because they only made, I think, like $25 a month was how much they were paid. So they were paid like virtually nothing. And so, yeah, it was bad. I mean, the Army provided food, they had shelter. So like, whatever. But what I would do is I would take the Katusas and they would be my tour guides, and we would go down to Seoul, and they would just keep me from going into a bad neighborhood. And, we would just go do, like, they'd be like, "Oh, sir, what do you want to go do?" I'm like, "Oh, what museums are here? Let's go do a museum." And so we would go around. But they always wanted me to eat Korean food because they're just, we're Korean and we do Korean stuff. And I remember we went to this restaurant, and I'm not super into spicy food, but in Korea, they put this ground up red pepper in everything. So if you don't like ground up red pepper, you're kind of. So I remember sitting there and eating the soup and stuff and kimchi, and it was like, I'm not quite used to this. But they had this little bowl of these little slivers. It kind of looked like somebody had taken beef jerky and then like shredded it, but it was kind of a silvery color. And so I'm eating it. I'm like, this is good. It kind of tastes like jerky. And I just keep eating this stuff. So I've eaten like more than half of the bowl. And I pick it up and look at it. And then I realized what it was. It was like a minnow that they had dried. Just the full fish, head, eyes, everything. But I'm eating so many of these at this point. I'm like, screw it.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I get udon with fish cakes, and I was like, I don't want anything to do with that. I didn't eat any fish cakes. But then the last day, I ate a fish cake, and it was so good. I was like, I missed my whole time in Japan. I could have been eating fish cakes.
Yes.
Texas was just past Senate confirmation, 50-51, with J.D. Vance being the tie-breaking vote. Thanks, Kara.
Cool.
Mitch McConnell and other rhinos voted no. Go figure. Next week, RFK Jr.'s confirmation is Wednesday. Tulsi and Cash are Thursday. Very exciting.
That's good. I wanted Hegseth because the military needs to be cleaned out. I don't think so much on the lower enlisted side.
I would love to have you back on, Rich, if you would, come back another time.
Sure.
Because I think everybody likes to pick your brain, and you're an interesting guy with a lot of skills. So if you'd come back, you don't have to tell me now while people are looking at you. You could text me.
No, that's fine. I wouldn't. Yeah, no, I totally want to. And
cool.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on. Big Hair Tsunamis in the chat. People are talking about hunting. We'll get to that. And the peppers, those damn peppers.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you so much for coming on. Let's plan another time. Friday nights are really good for me. I know you've got a lot with your civilian air patrol, but when you are free and
no, Fridays are good because it's the end of the week. Especially my wife's she's doing a bus trip, so she's already she's already in bed now. She's gonna get up at like 3 a.m. So
fun.
Drive a bus.
Don't miss those days. All right. Well, I do have some other shows coming up. Next week, we're talking about hypnotherapy with my sister, hopefully. If her son doesn't have baseball, she's going to come on and talk about hypnotherapy. Kim's going to come on. She's going to talk about like prepping, home stuff, canning, that kind of stuff.
Oh, my mom used to can.
Oh, really? I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
I know how to open.
I remember her doing that. No, she would. She had the little what do they call
ball jars?
The ball jars and the boil them, and she'd make her own pickles, and yeah. Well, that's how they used to. My mom grew up way out in the country. She was born in 41, and so they would can a lot in the winter because there was no store to go to. So yeah, that's how they grow food and then can it and store it and eat off it in the winter.
She's gonna share some tidbits. She grows a lot of stuff in her backyard, which is very exciting. Randy's coming back on February 7th to talk more.
Are we gonna hear the rest of the story with the? Are we gonna finally hear the rest of the story?
We are trying. We are trying. Rose Thistle said that you thought I was getting hypnotized. Like live? I don't know. We'll see how my sister wants to do it, but probably not. And then Valentine's Day, I'm doing a little body language special. You know, people might have some secret admirers, not me, but let me teach you if somebody has a crush on you, because I think body language is really fun. So everybody, thanks for giving a crap. Big Hair Tsunami in the chat. Love you. And everyone, I will see you. I'll be back Wednesday for my own nonsense, and then Friday back on the Kate Awakening. Now, first I have to fuck off with the YouTube. Got to turn that baby off because they can't watch the end of the show. It's so stupid, I swear. Okay. Remove.